Hello and welcome to Diaspora Digital Media. My name is Ralph Palm Jr. Today we're looking at a critical aspect of the development of every society, communication. It has grown into a wider spectrum and simply you can call it journalism. Now, in every culture, there is a way people interact and pass information around. Remember, in those days, we have, the gong in the morning and the town criers go around to announce what is happening. Today, journalism plays a critical role in the development of every society, so much so that it's known as the fourth estate of the realm. After the executive, you have the legislature, you have the judiciary, and journalism comes in, or the media generally. To discuss the state of journalism in Nigeria today, I have with me in the video studio Mr. Chuks Iloegbunam. Mr. Chuks, you're welcome to DDM.
Thank you very much.
Let's cut through the chase.
Thank
How
you.
is journalism? Yes, how is journalism in Nigeria today? Let's look at the role they have played in the development of the country. What would you assess? Give us a small background.
Uh, if I if I got you right, I would say that the state of journalism in Nigeria today is in a flux. There is a lot of confusion in today's journalism. It isn't the fault of the profession itself. It is the fault of circumstances. Journalism in Nigeria today is without any form of controls whatsoever. It is just like having the airports thrown open and everybody told to become a pilot. You don't go to flying school, you don't know the controls of the aircraft, you can't even find your way in the cockpit, and then you become a pilot. If you manage to lift that aircraft into the air, it's going to plunge down to a ball of fire or into a sea. That is why Nigeria's journalism today is in a state of confusion. Nobody is controlling anything. If you go back to history, by the time people like Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe were establishing newspapers in this country, there were controls. You would have an editor, you would have sub-editors, you would have a legal department, you would have the publisher, you will have the reporters, you will have the photographers, and all the rest of those positions filled up. Today, anybody who has a smartphone is a journalist. That is why there's a lot of confusion. That is why you have a lot of libel committed, a lot of sedition committed. Most times you can't even know who is perpetrating what criminal offense or the other. So there's no way to really check and balance behavior. If you look at the recent AFCON tournament in Cote d'Ivoire, everybody was a soccer analyst. Everybody was an expert. Everybody knew how a penalty kick had to be taken. Everybody knew the angle the goalkeeper had to dive to. But that is not how life is. You have to have specialization. If you, for instance, made everybody in this country a medical doctor, some of them will be surgeons and will have to operate on patients. If you give someone a scalpel and say, go and fix somebody's appendix, the patient will die because that guy is not a trained doctor. Such kind of checks are not in journalism. Everybody is in it. Because of that, those functions that journalism should uh, undertake are not being undertaken. What you have is wildness. Of course, that doesn't mean that you don't have aspects of good journalism in the country. You do have them. People, journalists who are rational, organizations that are responsible, media organizations that are responsible, and who have at the back of their mind patriotism, the love of the country, the promotion of its values. You have those in Nigerian journalism, but a majority of those who uh, claim to be journalists today, as I have said, aren't trained. Some of them are bought with money to be writing nonsense, to be maligning people, to be defaming people, to be assassinating people's character, to be making outlandish claims. So that's the general confusion that we have in the media today.
That's interesting. It's a little disheartening because basically you've brought to light the issue of lack of professionalism. Now, if we look at the mainstream media, for instance, would you say they have actually played the role of watchdog of society, being balanced in their reportage? Let's keep social media aside. The mainstream, what's your assessment, let's say in the past 1 year so far?
Well, I would say that the mainstream media has been less reckless than the social media. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to give them the kudos. This is because some of these media houses are sponsored by political partisanship. If you have party A sponsoring newspaper B, you are not going to expect newspaper B to be rational or objective in matters that pertain to the interest of their own sponsor. I'll give you a typical example. Before the last presidential election, there was a candidate whose name nobody was sure of, whose state of origin nobody was sure of, whose academic credentials nobody was sure of, nobody was sure of, about whom there have been tales told regarding drug peddling and all the rest of it. If you had national newspaper, what that newspaper will do is to objectively examine all the questions raised about that candidate and about all other candidates. But the media didn't do it. Instead, you had elements of the mainstream media supporting injustice, supporting fraud, supporting rigged elections, supporting violence, supporting things that don't make for a whole, healthy, and progressive society. So you can't get a rational media in a hungry society. Let's just put it bluntly. There is hunger in the land. A lot of these journalists in newspaper houses don't get paid for months, sometimes for years. Some of them are columnists, they sell their pages to the highest bidder. Those are existential issues. Now, if you had a journalist in China, for just to give you an example, his main interest will not be the brown envelope. No. His main interest will be perhaps ideological. But if you have in this society a journalist who hasn't paid his rent for 2 years, whose landlord is threatening to eject, whose car has broken down, who has not paid the children's school fees, whose wife is ill in hospital, or who is supposed to go for a prostate operation, well, they will take 1 million naira or 100,000 naira and write nonsense. So if you are looking at the state of Nigerian journalism, you have to see it against the backdrop of the state of the society itself. Nothing gives other than what it has. The society is in stasis as of today. Therefore, Nigeria's journalism is also in status. It's difficult to really change it, but you keep hoping that there will be people who still have conscience, whose pride is bigger and stronger than their hunger, and who understand that in the last analysis, only the truth can set the people free. If you have such people, then journalism will thrive.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chuks. Now, obviously, the economy has its effect on the quality of journalists we churn, but do we really have enough um, training institutions to ensure that quality journalists are produced? And what is the role of the regulatory bodies here?
Well, we do have more than enough institutions for the training of mass communication graduates, journalists. I think it was in 1962 that the first school of journalism, mass communication was established in Nigeria by Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. They had the Jackson School of Journalism in 1962, I think. Today, there is hardly a university in this country that does not have a department of mass communication. There's hardly an institute of technology, a polytechnic, that doesn't have a department of mass communication. You also have the Nigerian Institute of Journalism and such departments. So it's not a question of scarcity or dearth of institutions for training. The issue goes beyond that. If you train somebody properly, you expect them to work well, to operate well. But if that person you train very well is in a society where people are encouraged not to work properly, not to work in the right way, then there will be confusion. If you ever traveled to the UK, you are coming from the UK, Gatwick Airport or Heathrow Airport, you see Nigerians, they will stand in queue. They will run. If you see them on any high street bank in the US, they won't beat the queue. They won't be railing at anybody. The number will be there. You come, you take your card. Once your number appears, you go and you transact your business to the person at the counter. The same thing happens when you are traveling. But once that traveler from the UK, Nigerian traveler, comes from the UK and lands at Muritala International or Nnamdi Azikiwe International, the rush
Yeah.
starts, the shouting starts, the fighting starts, the bribery starts, the confusion starts, and then there will be power failure. You see what I mean? So
Mm.
it's not just the training. The training is the background, but the ambience is substantive. It has to be factored into everything. If you don't do that, You can send them to anywhere you like. That's what that is going to happen. If you are a patient in a hospital here, the doctor is likely to be telling you, oh boy, you have to pay this, so but you have to come to my clinic, you have to do this, you have to do that. Those doctors who are practicing it, a lot of them have been Japan, as they say. You can't go to the United States and you are in some hospital in Maryland or Nevada or in Cincinnati, and then you're telling the driver, give you $20 as a backhander. You end up in prison.
Mhm.
So the total of my argument is this: we don't lack training facilities for journalists, but the society is making it extremely difficult for us to maintain very good journalism and very good journalism. I remember when I was still in school, when we had those famous uh, columnists. We had Bolabo Gusowo, we had Samamuka, we had Peter Inaro. Those guys were properly trained. Those guys operated in a setting where they were able to pay their rent, meet their social and domestic responsibilities, and they knew that there were instruments for their persecution, no, sorry, prosecution if they went against the laws of the land. Uh, Mr. Rompan, if I label you now, it will
Mhm.
be difficult for you to seek redress. Where are you going? How are you going to sue me? If you sued me, in 20 years, the case has not been mentioned for the first time.
Mhm.
And even before you go to court to seek redress, you will cast your mind at what the judiciary has been doing. And you ask yourself whether if you went to court, you would attain and achieve the justice that you seek. Somebody contests for the governorship, he has a fake NYSC certificate. The judges look at it, they say it's not fake, and they say the person should go on. Somebody is appointed a minister, he didn't do you service, and they said, okay, go ahead. And the person is going, when you have that kind of society, you must, it will do you well to understand what your problem is. Nigeria's problem is not just its journalism. Nigeria's problem is Nigeria itself. Everything is upside down and inside out. And except we begin to make amends from the source, nothing positive will come. We have a proverb in this place, in the Igbo country where I come from, in Anambra State, that when a stream is polluted from source, the pollution runs through the length of that stream. There is no place, there's no aspect of the society you look at today that things are working the way they should. When things are like that, why do you, how can you begin to expect the media to be the oasis in the desert? It's not possible. So that's why journalism in this country is in a mess. And I can give you instances of this kind of mess I'm talking about.
Right on,
There
sir.
was a time, there was a time the media reported that in Delta State, some Mexicans were seized. That was about a year ago. They were manufacturing these hard drugs. Forget what they call it in English, but they call it Ulumbili here. Very dangerous thing.
Mhm.
Once that case was reported, it never came up again for discussion up till next tomorrow. There was a lady who was caught red-handed, a restaurateur, you know, cooking human beings and serving as meat to
Mhm.
customers. She was arrested. You saw the photographs of limbs, hands, arms, head, body parts in her kitchen. She was seized, handcuffed, and taken away by the police. Up till next week, nobody has heard again about it. So even if you want to begin to restructure journalism in this country, could you appeal to the practicing journalists to have what you call recheck? Mind you, not fact check. Fact check is, I say I'm 20 years old. You go and check whether it is correct or not. That's fact check. I'm talking of recheck. If somebody was arrested for serving human flesh in her canteen, the first month passes, the second month passes, the third month passes, there should be a mechanism for journalists to go back to the source and say, what has happened to this case? This policeman, you are supposed to be the investigating police officer. Has it been has the case been swept under the carpet? What seems to be the problem? That kind of thing never happens in this country. That is why, even in the political realm, you see guys who stole the nation blind, and when political appointments come up, they are given again. Nobody cares. Nobody says anything. There was this head of the EFCC that was probed during Buhari's time. Buhari's time, which in any case was a joke. Up to today, nobody has seen the result of the probe, and nobody is saying anything. And that's the kind of thing that journalists should be looking into, rechecking.
Now we have. Do you think the number of media outfits we have is a plus or a minus to Nigeria today?
Um, it is a plus. I say so because it is a plus for a society to have their trained personnel engaged professionally. Jobs are given. When I went into journalism in the 70s, yes, I was still in the university then. At some point, the Nigeria Broadcasting Corporation shut down many of their radio stations across the country, in a place like Calabar and all the rest of it, and they shed their staff strength. People thought it was all right. When I went to London to live, I discovered that in London alone there are over 20 radio stations, and then they ask like Milton Keynes, all those towns surrounding London. Anywhere you go to, you give them competition. I thought they said this is a capitalist country. We're practicing capitalism. So it is all right to have as many journalists as you can. Previously, we had only the Anambra State Broadcasting Corporation in Oka. Today, there are about 10 of them. There are about 10 in Onitsha. In fact, just behind my house, there's even one. You have it all over the place. You compete. It gives people job. It gives people variety. It gives people the urge for competition. As they say, the more, the merrier. The only thing is that if you have the numbers, you must also try to institute some measure of controls so that everything doesn't go haywire.
There's a lot of work to be done. How do we solve this problem? How do we get journalism
Yeah.
practice in Nigeria to begin to steer in the right direction?
Well, according to Georgy Plekhanov, that Soviet ideological guru, he said that the dominant ideology in any society is that of the ruling classes. It's just like the computer, they say garbage in, garbage out.
Mhm.
For you to have good journalism, individual efforts will be at play, but also there has to be enough effort on the part of the superstructure to make journalism work. If you have a minister or a commissioner for information, what does he issue to the people? Does he keep telling them every day that every place is smelling of roses, while the stench of corruption and duplicity is deranging the entity? If those who are in charge of journalism, in charge of the operations of journalism do their bit, things will be better. But it is going to be a hard call for proper journalism to reign again in a society that is wholly improper at the moment.
That is a strong way to get us to the end of the program for today, sir. Any general last point?
Uh, the general last point is to wish Nigeria all the best. To wish not just Nigeria, but Nigerians all the best. This society is supposed to exist on amity, understanding, tolerance, largeness of heart. It should not be a dog eat society
Mm.
where the ill-gotten wealth is used as a bludgeon for tearing to pieces the skulls of the deprived. That's my general message to our people. As Chief Abiola used to say when he was alive, Chief MK Abiola, he said there was enough in this country for everybody's need, but not enough for everybody's greed. Let us ditch the greediness and let us meet the needs of our people, because the society has the resources for the good life for each and every one of us.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chuks Iloegbunam, for being part of our program today.
Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure.
Well, there you have it. We have a lot to do as a nation. If the shepherd with poor quality, it happens that the people will suffer inequality. We need to do much more than we're doing. For those in the front line of journalism, we have a responsibility to the people. Being a watchdog of society is not a walk in the park. We all know that. But we have to draw the line between the brown envelope and true journalism practice. That's a challenge for today. From Diaspora Digital Media on this week's edition of the program, my name is Ron Palm Jr. saying thanks for watching.